My own mother once tried to recruit me into the cult of Amway. I was around 23 years old, so I wasn't expecting a line of obvious bullshit to come at me from a family member. Not anymore. She went on with her professionally drawn-out spiel, trying to entice me into this Christian cult of selling things. And finally, after 20 minutes, she asked me what I thought. I told her, "This is a pyramid scheme, Mom." Without hesitation, she replied, "Yes, but this is legal." Well, so much for Methodist moral values. And she tried to get me involved in creepy Amway. I was suddenly ashamed of my own mother, who had been like a rock of knowledge and life experience in my mind. Until that day. It was like she was speaking up to me from a childlike mentality. It was scary and confusing. When I wanted to investigate Amway from an outside perspective, I of course looked to a skeptical investigator. The Rick Ross Institute should be given kudos and a ton of media exposure for the work Mr. Rick Ross does and has done to educate the world about dangerous cults. That's www.rickross.com. There is a long list of cults and other suspicious groups at that website, and it's quite an eye-opener. Take some time and read up on some of the groups you know about, but weren't that aware of their occult activities. You'll be shocked at what some groups have done, which seems to have been ignored by modern America. Rick Ross confirmed what I had suspected, based on everything I had heard about Amway and what my mother had told me about them. After carefully looking over Amway's introductory material, and then Rick Ross's website, it became clear that Amway is a cult of religious capitalism. Structured like a pyramid scheme, guarded at the top like Scientology, and funded as well as the Trinity Broadcasting Network. They just don't toot their own horn on TV or in the movies, so most Americans aren't even aware that Amway even exists today. It's true, Amway is still very much alive and successful, and very wealthy, very white, very conservative, and very Christian. The second time my mother tried to recruit me into Amway, I had a friend with me, and that friend was also aghast at the very insanity of the proposal. We were both stunned into virtual silence at the stupidity of the request. First of all, I had come out to my mother as an atheist just a few months previous to that, so she knew better than to push a phony religious business pitch on me. But to push it on me a second time was downright disrespectful. It was embarrassing. She didn't take no for an answer. I hope an Amway cult member reads this and checks into the problems of that business. It's frightening to find out about how many bizarre and parasitic groups operate in America with complete legal impunity. Apparently it only took a few legal twists and manipulations to keep Amway legal over the years, otherwise they might have been shut down by now. If Amway is ever interested in the things I've said here, they might also be interested to know that my mother was also an atheist. She quietly confided in me that she was firmly in the closet as a silent atheist pretending to be a Methodist. I couldn't believe that, since again my mother was the very meaning of honesty in my mind. She taught me that honesty is the only policy. And here she was telling me that she was living a lie. For all those years, too. Ever since I was a kid, she said she had no religious beliefs. After I spent 9 years in 2 Catholic schools that she took me to, she told me she was an atheist the whole time. So if Amway cares about me, they surely care more about her, since she was on her way up in the pyramid, last I heard. I chalked up those 2 attempts to recruit me to a long and growing list of religious experiences. In 1986, a couple of friends tried to get me to go to a church, and they succeeded. They talked me into it. I was cordial and open about it, and I think I even wore a nice shirt just for the occasion. I was not happy, though. It was some kind of singing and dancing in the aisles church, but not a black church where that sort of thing is done well and with style. This was a shopping center space with a lot of folding chairs and folding cafeteria table for an altar. The idea was that this church was happy and joyful instead of churches like that kind that I've gone to so much in the past. Immediately, the music got to me. It stunk. I'm a musician, so I've always been sensitive to music, especially bad music. But what really got to me was all the audience interaction. At least in Catholic church you can sit down and doze a while if you're not a student there, and no one expects you to dance at the time. I used to get physically sick in church from around the 6th grade on. It eventually progressed to the point where I couldn't attend an entire church service at any church, not just my own. I'd have to get up and leave about halfway through the service, or else I'd puke right then and there. More about that later. So despite the handful of differences between this and my old church, at this new church again I got angry and tired and hot and sweaty and nauseous, just as if it was my old Catholic church. After 20 minutes of that silly musical catastrophe of a church service, I had to get out. I looked around the room and saw that there was a bathroom just about 10 feet to the right of the altar. I told my friends that I was going to the bathroom. I didn't ask, and I wasn't polite about it. Everyone in the room saw me go, and I didn't care. I closed the bathroom door and found the toilet, and immediately I threw up. This was one of my old party-style pukes, too, a nice loud one. It was truly needed and deserved, though it didn't provide any relief. The service was still going on, damn it. When I got done, I went back to my seat and staggered as I stood for the rest of the hour there. Then we all left. As we were driving down the road, one of my friends said, "I thought you might do something like that, Joe. You went to Catholic school all those years. Hey, that's funny because when you went into that bathroom and puked, every single person in the room could hear you. And man, you were loud." It was a quiet moment in the service at the time. I laughed at first, but the more I thought about it, I am proud that I did that. Proud that I puked in a church less than 15 feet from the altar, and even more proud that a whole congregation heard every second of it during their services. Priceless. I'm convinced that getting sick during every church service was my mind and body's way of telling me to avoid religion. The problem was not that there was any lack of air conditioning. The cold air slapped the back of my neck throughout every service, because they always had the air conditioning on full blast during services. The problem was probably not that we students were crammed into the pews like sardines in a can. I don't even think the problem was how mean the nuns and priests were to us. It seems to me the big problem with me in church services is that I had been conditioned all my life to avoid telling a lie, and that from start to finish a church service is just one lie after another. Unless you take it all as metaphor, which we were definitely not allowed to do, you may not have ever experienced this kind of reaction. We all had to take everything literally and believe it all, lock, stock, and barrel. We had no choice whatsoever. I subconsciously rejected that only after years of being force-fed all of that nonsense for so long. In many people, religion causes a mental overload, one way or another. Mine was an overload of mandatory beliefs combined with a natural, normal human reaction to any perceived enemy of the self. After examining all of the perceived enemies in my life, I have come to the conclusion that the only one to permeate my entire life's history and the only one to have been forced on me so uniformly has got to be religion. Everyone involved in the organized force-feeding of religion is a part of that, but even most of them are deceived as well. Religion deceives with amazing success. As thinking people, we've got to comment on things that are plainly wrong. It surpasses opinion. I'm talking about demonstrable fact and documented evidence. Religion is bad. Period. In 1996, I had to quit a very good landscaping job because of religious harassment. My boss was the owner of the company, and he was a raving Pentecostal. We were best friends at the time, which was only possible due to his tolerance of my being a proud and mouthy atheist. We debated religion and atheism in a friendly way, and it was great. We spent about a year doing that, as I worked hard and moved up the short ladder in the company. I became a supervisor. All that God debating was fun, but I knew I had to be careful. Then one day, a payday, as we were finishing up the workday, the boss was handing out our paychecks. They were in white mailing envelopes as usual, and he gave me mine. I looked at the envelope, and for the first time in a year, he had written some Bible quotes on the envelope. Just the names of the books and chapter and verse numbers for a couple of quotes. Well, I didn't need that noise, and I didn't think much of it either. I took my paycheck out of the envelope and crumbled up that envelope loudly and proudly and tossed it into the trash pile in our work van. Well, the boss flipped out. "Take that out of there. That's yours." "I don't want it. I have my paycheck, thanks." I said, "Take that. It's for you." "I don't care if you don't want it. Take it." "It's trash. I didn't litter. It's in the van with the other trash." I said, "Pick that up and take it now." And he grabbed my right arm and squeezed it really hard. Then he said, "Don't fuck with me, boy," with a look in his eyes like I had shot his dog or something. Did he call me boy? I was a year older than him. Oh, boy.